Sherdog.com here with Ultimate Fighting Championship co-founder and Gracie Jiu-Jitsu legend Rorion Gracie. You have such a strange UFC story because for almost everybody else, whether they watched or they were part of it, it seemed to be about finding out what this was really like, what would really happen if a guy from this style fought a guy from this style. Your story is unique in that you already kind of had some idea. UFC 1 seems to be almost nothing to do with fighting for you and almost everything to do with the kind of life that you wanted to lead in America, which is really fascinating, I think.
Yeah, in fact, this whole dream of sharing the knowledge came, many years earlier. I first came here in 1969 to spend a 1-month vacation, but my return ticket to Brazil, my ticket and my money were stolen. So I called the airline company. They told me it was going to take 6 months for me to get a new ticket. 1969, there was no internet, nothing like that. So I called my dad in Brazil, say, Dad, I love America so much, I'm going to be here for at least another 6 months. I didn't want to worry the old man back in Brazil. So I ended up staying here for a whole year. And at 17, 18 years old, it was a very formidable experience for me. To be here, I literally find myself panhandling for a few days, sleeping on a newspaper on the sidewalk. And after 1 year of the United States, I eventually went back to Brazil, and all I could think about is the lifestyle in America. I mean, what I experienced, what I saw, people I met, was a very unique opportunity for me at that time. So I spent 2 years saving money. I came back again in 1972 and visiting some friends, and then went back to Brazil, went to law school in Brazil. And in 1978, after graduating law school, I came back with the mission of actually sharing jiu-jitsu with the world. It was not to make anybody else feel bad. I just want to wake everybody up. I want, with the same level and same sense of honesty that I always saw my father teach jiu-jitsu. He spoke with so much confidence about that stuff. He had the opportunity to demonstrate to the world how effective that stuff was. My dad was the first sports legend in Brazil's history. And before Pelé, the soccer player, was even born, my dad was a national hero. So for me, I was always respectful and admiring that kind of career and dedication and commitment to share what he knew with the public in general, with his students and everything else. He was willing to step up fight anybody just so that the students would know, hey, this guy really believes in what he does and he's being very honest about what he's sharing with me. So I felt the same kind of responsibility when I came here. I put the mats in my garage, like I said, invited everybody for a class. And if the guy wanted to challenge me for a fight because he didn't believe on this, I'm always ready to do it and prove it because of conviction in what I did. I had a very strong responsibility towards my students so that they knew that I'm teaching them something that I was very believing on, something that I was very strong, committed to do. So it was always for me about a mission of continuing something that began almost a century ago in Brazil. So the UFC was nothing but a way to showcase real fights against each other, different styles of martial arts against each other. But of course, I had my belief in jiu-jitsu, and it turned out to be a great opportunity for us to share that. And for me, it was just another chapter on the book of sharing the knowledge and the things that we have to distribute and share and teach to everybody else. So for me, it's been a very interesting and very exciting ride.
When you were in Brazil and thought about moving to the United States in the early 80s, how did you imagine promoting Gracie Jiu-Jitsu when you thought about bringing this art to the masses?
I didn't know exactly. I didn't have a plan on how to promote it in a large scale. But I was absolutely confident that the benefits of the art are so amazing that eventually, like a bubble of air underwater, it was going to come to the top. I knew it was going to surface somehow. So I just kind of did, my daily grind of teaching class and getting choked out every day, day in, day out. And eventually, the concept just kind of, came up. And of course, there was a challenge, the Gracie challenge that happened a few years prior to that, which already put a spotlight on the idea of the Gracies challenging, everybody else kind of thing. And then just one day, we kind of materialized this stuff through the UFC.
Do you feel particularly proud that you were able, not just to put together the UFC, but to put it together as an homage to your family?
That's what my life is about, is to pay homage to the family, especially for my dad for what he's done in the UFC and the books, and the Gracie Diet book, and the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu book, the Gracie Museum, the Gracie Academy. I mean, that's what the whole thing is about, Honor thy father. So that's the whole thing for me. My life has been nothing but a dedicated mission to pay homage to the ones that came before me. So my dad in the Jiu-Jitsu side, and my Uncle Carlos now with the whole Gracie Diet concept.
What did your father think about the UFC in the run-up to it? I mean, did you have conversations about the tournament, about Royce? What did you guys talk about in the days before?
He loved every minute of it. He was very excited. He couldn't miss it. He was here part of the whole thing and just cheering him on, training, supervising the workout, and part of the training, the whole thing was just, he was 100%. He was like, the old man was just getting rejuvenated by the whole kind of thing. I'm sure he brought back memories for him.
Was he nervous at all, or was he just convinced that Royce would win?
No, he wasn't convinced. He had belief in Royce, like all of us did have belief in Royce, but on the art of whatever Royce was going to do in there. But there's always a sense of apprehension that one cannot underestimate. To say that he was not afraid at all, or he was completely confident that nothing was going to happen to Royce, that would be immature and not realistic. I think he was like me and everybody else. There's a chance that something can happen. We train hard for this, we're prepared for this. Let's do our best, but just 1 foot in front, 1 foot in the back, and be prepared for whatever. But Royce, performed very well. And of course, the old man was thrilled, and everybody else was thrilled for him.
It seemed like UFC 1 alone wouldn't be enough to discourage, dim mak masters who feel they can death touch people or something like that. So, did you immediately feel like you needed to continue on with UFC 2, 3, and 4 just because there was obviously going to be more people crawling out of the woodwork attempting to dispel the myth of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu?
Yeah, martial arts is representative of different styles. I felt that they would think, well, that's because I wasn't there. For sure, I have that sensation, that impression, because you only had 8 fighters, competing. I'm sure there's lots and lots of people there who, think that their system, their way of doing it would be different. And with that said, I knew that there would be the next one is going to be a bigger pool of people wanting to participate, and we're ready for that. That's exactly what we wanted. My idea, it was not just to compare Jiu-Jitsu to 8 styles of martial arts, but compare Gracie Jiu-Jitsu to every single style of martial art out there. That was the plan, and that's the way to do it. I think there was a very positive turnaround. Turnout the way the thing came about, alerted and informed and woke up everybody to the reality they're going to be having to deal with, and we see the results. It never stopped.
It's strange, I guess, for someone to see something that they're that intimately associated with and just kind of have it be everywhere. For instance, there's no one alive who invented the boxing ring.
Yes.
When you see a UFC clip, you know immediately what the first octagon was like. You have an invoice for it somewhere. That's a different kind of relationship to have. So when you just see clips from 1993 or even see the UFC in 2013, what is your immediate thought?
Just think for me, it was just another day at work. It was something that I did. It was a happy idea. I don't have the receipt for the UFC, but I have the drawings before the UFC existed. I have some drawings here at the Gracie Museum, and actually pictures of the museum that we did it by hand. John Milius and I sitting on the mat before or after a class, just, hey, what about something like this? I still have those. But I have good fond memories. I see the UFC, kind of brings me back a flash of good times and stuff like that. But like I said, I don't get stuck on that. I have a bigger fish to fry nowadays, so it's a very exciting time for me to be able to push on and carry on. I think that everything I've done to this point in the last 38 years of America was to build a platform of credibility and recognition for the Gracie name for me to start doing my real work, which is to now at this stage to promote the concepts of health and better living to the concepts of the Gracie diet, something that was developed by my Uncle Carlos during 65 years of research. And that's what I'm at right now. The Gracie Diet book is the flag of the new revolution. And I'm very excited about that. I was thinking about the other day, maybe, 50, 100 million people have seen, heard, or 200 million people have seen and heard about the UFC or benefited from that. I don't know if there's 100 million people practicing Jiu-Jitsu, but people are aware of this stuff nowadays. But for me nowadays, much more important than sharing the knowledge of Jiu-Jitsu is sharing the knowledge of a better lifestyle. And that happens through the Gracie Diet. If 100 million people have benefited from Jiu-Jitsu, my goal is to help 7 billion people to live a better life through better eating habits.
So if you realized UFC 1 as a tool for Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and an homage to your father, Elio, what would you want him to ultimately say about you and your contributions to Jiu-Jitsu, to mixed martial arts and Vale Tudo fighting through UFC 1? What do you think would his appraisal be, and what would you want to hear him say about those specific contributions that you made to martial arts and the family?
He said it many times. He said, thank you, and that was it. That's all I need.